happening in the sphere of trade, markets, and agriculture. How collectively these three triads that will try to enhance the farm income. I phased out this presentation into these six subtopics, setting the context. So, what is the rationale for having this topic for this refresher training, and to understand better what are all the trends happening in agriculture trade of India, and what about the price nexus, farm gate price, domestic price, and even commodity futures price, as well as the border or world price. What are all the trends prevailing for the various commodities, and also the recent government initiative of popularizing agriculture export policy. Now we have export policy for each and every state that has to be laid out, and prepare a roadmap for boosting our farm exports. And the fifth one will be the missing links. How to connect the dots to bring in the welfare the agriculture trade provides to the farm gate, and what should be done to sustain the initiative. That is the way ahead. So this is the sub topics for this presentation, and yeah, first we'll see the context of the current topic for our discussion. If you see that triangle, you can consider agriculture, trade, and markets on the three corners or the three dimensions, engulfing or surrounding the farmers. How the influence of agriculture, markets, institutions, and trade that governs the farm profitability. So that is the topic of our interest. And we begin with one by one. What about the transformation happened in agriculture? So right from our primitive agriculture to our modern day digital agriculture or smart agriculture or e-agriculture, whatever you prefer to talk or discuss, you just think about the past. Very primitive cultivation, then you got so many revolutions, green, white, yellow, blue, so many revolutions happening in agri and agri-led spheres that transformed the lives of billions of people, okay, ensuring food security as well as nutrition security. Then with the surplus, we even try to reach the foreign markets, the global markets. That is the first thing on agriculture. So the second sphere is the revolution of markets. How the markets they evolved over the period. Okay, right from your once again primitive markets, you got rural markets, shanties, then you got spot markets, well-developed physical or spot markets that is interconnected with regional borders or national borders. Then once again you have regulated markets. Then you got spot markets as well as the futures markets for select commodities. Okay, then you got our digital platform for virtual markets. Okay, so from primitive rural markets to your virtual platform of e-markets. Now we are in the phase of ENAM, one nation, one market. We are talking about. This is the second sphere. Intervening with the lives of farmers. The third dimension is trade component. So even you can see in the figure, in the triangle, each axis is indicated or earmarked for agriculture, markets, and trade, engulfing the welfare of farmers. The third sphere is international trade. When you look into the past, you recollect your memories, you can think of we had a very primitive system of trade happened in the ancient civilization. That is barter system, simply exchange of goods for goods. Okay, ivory for silk or muslin or whatever it may be, spices for muslin or peacock feathers or whatever it may be. In the ancient civilization, the barter system was the first a kind of trade, the very primitive trade, without use of any token coins, without any medium of exchange. We had our trade, the primitive trade, followed by the period of bullionism. Okay, the period of coinism. The trade happened by making use of medium of exchange as gold coins or silver coins, copper coins or iron coins or whatever it may be. Even some of the regimes, even they have made coins out of leather. Okay, so it is a period of bullionism followed by mercantilism. That is to trade. Mercantile means to trade. So when the European countries they wanted to source out the raw materials for their manufacturing sectors in the countries, they wanted to look for the raw material, basically cotton and jute. That's why they colonized India and China and most of the Southeast Asian nations. Okay, not because of any other interest, not to expand the territories, basically to look for sourcing raw materials for the textiles of their own in their own country. Then, after sourcing out the raw materials, they have been brought to their own country and processed, and the finished goods, the cloths are made out of it. And after consuming the sufficient portion of the finished products, they wanted to find out new markets. So the surplus should be once again marketed somewhere else, for which they once again found the colonial countries, and also they wanted to find out new markets, new continents. So that is the happening for the period of mercantilism, that is exploration. Okay, exploration of new continents, new markets, and a lot of invention took place during the period of industrial revolution, then followed by our modern day trade. So in all the three spheres, right from agriculture to markets to trade, you have witnessed tremendous changes from very primitive or crude or immature form of institution to well functioning or technology driven platform for engaging all these three spheres. Now our interest is what has happened to the farm profitability or farm income. So let us have a healthy discussion during this 1 hour session, because we cannot come for any kind of conclusion or suggestion. Just we can see what has happened in the past, what is happening at present, and what will be happening in future, or what could be the trend that will prevail in coming years. The second subtopic is setting the context. Okay, how far we are, competent enough to boost our farm exports. So from the figures we have seen, nearly 40 billion US dollars, the total exports of agricultural products happened in 2018-19, and the target fixed by agri-export policy to boost farm exports to the tune of 60 billion US dollars by 2022. But because of this pandemic, it has been postponed to 2024. That target has been fixed for the year 2024 because of this COVID-19 associated pandemic. And when you compare the global share of farm exports, you can see the share of India, very meager when compared to industrialized countries like US or Netherlands, almost 10% or 7%. Being an agrarian country, you see very minuscule performance of our country. And on one hand, you can think positively about we got enough population to consume even within our own country. So 1.3 billion population. So we have very robust and sophisticated markets within our country, within our system. So it is not fancy to look for farm exports. Wherever it is potential, we can explore. And this $4.58 billion US dollar is our total farm exports to US alone. So US being the largest importer of our farm commodities, and this is all the data provided by DGCAS and APIDA. Just to think, there is better prospect for our farm exports, and also you can harness major share in global farm exports. This is also once again to envisage the spurt in growth of farm exports to US alone. Okay, from just 758 million US dollar to 1.8 billion US dollars within a decade, from 2011 to 2020, 133% increase. So it says we got tremendous potential to even our major export destination. Then you think of other clusters like European cluster or Southeast Asian clusters or even Gulf cluster, and wherever you have our Indian ethnic population or people of Indian origin live. So we got better prospects for our farm exports. And what are all the advantages India has with regard to the farm exports? As I already pointed out, the robust demand, not alone the export demand happening for our farm commodities, even our internal demand. We got a large population and rising urban and rural income. Lot of urbanization, migration is taking place, and you got surge in middle income class in our India. So lot of factors that are governing the demand for farm commodities, agri and allied commodities. So we got robust demand within the country and also abroad. And also you can see lot of multinational companies, MNCs, they vie for India as a potential markets for the inputs. Inputs, say the case of seeds or hybrid seeds especially, then fertilizers, chemicals, technology, and also finance, warehousing, and other logistics. Whatever you think of, even farm machineries. Okay, so they found out India as a potential, India and China, both the countries as potential markets for farm inputs. So when you see there is a scope for demand for farm inputs in a country, certainly it will create lot of positive vibes. You can create more production that will lead into more processing. Then you will get a lot of finished goods. After having the surplus to be exported overseas, the remaining will be consumed domestically or within other sectors. So we got better attractive investment opportunities as well. Okay, then the policy support. So whether it is the current government or previous government, all along the agriculture sector is well supported by the government initiatives. So the production linked incentives and other schemes that will be year by year it's growing. Okay, so we got better policy backup for boosting our farm exports. And also the final one will be slightly diabolical in nature, competitive advantage. We got diversified climates, a lot of lands, and also a lot of farmlands, and agrarian population still living in rural areas to support the cause of farming or agri-related activities. But my question is, slightly we are losing our competitive advantage. Once we talked about we are potential exporters of our spices, then our plantation crops, whether it's tea or coffee or other plantation crops, pepper, and also both basmati and non-basmati rice. So these are all traditional, the farm exports happening from India to the world, but slowly we are losing our momentum in most of the commodities. So the last point, we have to still prove our real worthiness as far as our advantages are concerned in the case of our farm exports. So after setting the context, and the next one will be what has happened and the trends in farm trade. Okay, you see the slide. It indicates the top 10 farm exports from India. Okay, the value terms, and also the hotspot, the top 10 export destinations. Okay, leave alone the marine products and bovine meat, basmati rice, non-basmati rice, spices. I told you, these are all traditional exports from India, sugar and oil meal. And the export destinations, once again, I told you, US consumes nearly 10% of our farm exports, and Southeastern Asian clusters and SAARC countries. So, because of geographical advantage, we are dumping our farm exports to the nearby countries. And in the next graph, you can see till 2021 and 20 and 21, you just leave out because they are not normal years. The COVID-19 or pandemic affected years. It may not reflect the real exports or imports happen. The real potential will be somewhat masked by the pandemic situation. And this is also to support the performance of agri exports and agri imports under different government regimes, under UPA and the NDA government. You can see they are increasing. So we are net agri exporters, net agri exporters of our commodities, farm commodities. So export surplus, okay. And also you can see the commodity segment once again, the same thing, whether it's a basmati or non-basmati rice or spices, cotton, sugar, and one thing, the same thing, supported by the DGCAs, Director General of Commercial Intelligence and Statistics. Now, this is an eye opener, the mixed bag. I told you we are slightly losing our competitive advantage. Okay, why? Because all our competitors, they look for the same art destinations or target markets, and also they have the similar agroclimatic conditions as that of India. Hence, they engage in mimicking our own production. Whatever the crops grown in India, that can be grown in Thailand or Malaysia or Indonesia or even in Pakistan or Bangladesh. So they will compete for your markets, and also with the still cheaper labor, they will outcost our potential segments. Whatever we think of our competitive advantage, we may tend to lose in future. So that is a concern. Only with respect to cereals and pulse preparations and perishables, fruits and vegetables. And sugar is a peculiar case. You may not get the positive note on every year. It will be having a seesaw change, sometimes on a negative side, sometimes on a positive side. For most of the other segments, the negative growth. So this is the current situation, a mixed bag. And countries are mimicking our own production pattern. And Thailand is mimicking our own production pattern of perishables like onions or vegetables. And even in the last batch, I told the case of Mundu chili. Mundu chili is, I mean, very pertinent or prominent for our Ramnad belt. But the similar type of or the pungency or the similar type of chilies are grown in Pakistan also. So, and similarly, the perishables and your chitty onion, okay, the onion of medium size in between Bellary and our aggregatum, mainly cultivated in the tribal belts of Orissa and Jharkhand. That is most favored by Sultan of Brunei, okay, that medium type chitty onion. That type of onion is largely produced even in Thailand. So whatever you produce or whatever you think of, the production system is mimicked by our competing country. So we may not be sure whether we will be having the same trade advantage with our conventional farm exports. And also, whenever I want to say, I just reiterate the case of China. China is growing mango to largest extent with ultra high density planting. So, in future, even in mango and processed pulp, China will be a major competitor along with your Thailand or Brazil or Peru or Chile or Pakistan. So you may not think about what will happen in future. Whatever you try to say, we are, have enough advantage in exporting. We are slightly losing. That's why I wanted to say it's a mixed bag of trend for our farm exports. So once again, just to compare the value and volume for the commodity groups. Once again, the same listing. Now, this is very interesting. I told you first setting the context and the trend happening in agricultural exports and whatever the price nexus, the price nexus between FE is your farm gate price, DP your domestic price, WP is your border price or world price or reference price, whatever you may call. Treating 2016 prices as a base year for the index. For 2021, when it is compared, you just look for all the commodities. You just add 100 to all these values, 104 or 106 or 107, just to indicate all are increasing or positive. The farm gate prices and domestic prices and your world prices from the base period. Treating 2016 prices as 100. That is a base price index. Cereals, oil seeds, commercial crops, fiber or sugar or plantation crops, whatever you see, fruits, and once again pepper. So when you look into the idea for projecting this price nexus is that everything is on a positive note, increasing trend, but how much it is percolated to the farm gate price, whether the farm gate price is really achieved by the producers or the farmers or planters or somebody in between. So that is a situation when you compare these prices of these commodities. Maybe some escalation is due to this pandemic, the prices for 2020 and 2021. That may trigger some bias towards estimation, but anyhow, it is just to indicate they are on positive note. Okay, so how the prices get transmitted to domestic markets. Now we say we are all in the period of WTO. Okay, after 1995, WTO has formed to regulate global trade, both in say primary or manufacturing commodities and even in services. So the tariff lines have been reduced to have access to all the markets, whether it's an emerging economy or developed economy or developing economy. It will compete with any other country for trading its commodities. Okay, so in the wake of WTO, when the prices are, say the index, the price index for all the commodities, they are on an increasing note. How much the benefit that is garnered by the producers or planters? And one more thing to see, when you compare the price index of world as well as our India, you take the proxy for commodities. Food price index is taken as a proxy. It is the global food price index is computed by FAO Rome. You see the pattern. Okay, the red is FAO and the blue is the wholesale price index of our country. In all the various governments that ruled our country, it is increasing trend, on increasing trend, whether it's wholesale price or even the global food price index has lot of volatility. Okay, 2004 there is some volatility. 2008 house bubble scam and associated consequences made the commodity prices to boom. Once again, the energy crisis that increase the cost of production. So lot of fluctuations happened in the global food prices or commodity prices. Whereas in the case of India, it's been in a steady state because we have strong consumption base even within our country. If anything happens, don't just to think about global markets. Even you think about your own large domestic market. So the prices, I mean to say, they are converging. That means the markets are highly liberalized and also they are globalized and a lot of transmission happening for the prices. But to what extent they are getting nearer to the farm gate price? That is a question mark. Once again, this is to state the value of farm exports and imports as a percentage of agri GDP. So normally the agri GDP hovers around 13 to 16% or whatever it may be. And all along you can see from 2004-5 to 2020-21, the growth in farm exports and the value. Okay, you can see it is on an increasing trend, and this is about the trade and commodity nexus, the prices nexus happening for our farm commodities. Then, with the help of the policy framework, the government of India came out with the idea of boosting farm exports. So each state is advised to have its own farm export policy. Even we have our own TN Agri Export Policy, TNAU, and the goal is mainly to boost our double our farm exports from 30 billion to 60 billion by 2022, but it is the target is revised by 2024 because of this pandemic, and to reach 100 billion in the years to come, maybe 2025 or 2030. And definitely we should reach this 100 billion mark, for which we have identified commodity clusters, and each district we have identified one select commodity to target. And what about the associated value addition and other processing aspects for the commodity, especially for the operation top or operation green, that is tomato, onion, potato, perishables, and to promote indigenous commodities, because our ethnic population spread all over the world. Okay, the people of Indian origin or non-resident Indians, NRI, and our traditional ethnic population, they want to consume products from India. So that's why we still have strong demand for our farm exports. And also any novel item, commodity, the desi type, indigenous, organic, okay, naturally grown or organically grown, what are the certification or label you like to have, and traditional and non-traditional farm products. Okay, so to promote all these segments, still we got potential. We try to evolve GI, okay, geographic indication for most of our commodities, to create a brand for our commodities, and to provide an institutional mechanism for pursuing market access. Okay, and also this trade barrier is a major issue. Okay, after WTO has come into picture, the global trade has been somewhat regularized, but still the tariff measures, they have been controlled to large extent. You got the measurable tariffs, that is tax, levy, duty, they are one and the same, whether it's a tax or tariff or levy or duty. Okay, so they are measurable, empirical tariff, whether it's ad valorem, value of a commodity, or a specific tariff, say $5 per ton or $5 per quintal. Whether it's a specific tariff or ad valorem tariff, the measurable, empirical, quantitative trade barriers, tariffs have been reduced. The WTO has fixed some bound rate, that is the frontier, the highest tariff you can impose, below which you can have applied tariff. Okay, whatever based on your negotiation or your free trade agreement or your regional trade agreements, you can negotiate between your trading partners, and you can still reduce your measurable trade barriers. But the concern is the issue of non-tariff barriers, that is sanitary and phytosanitary issues, adulterations, okay, traceability issues, the maximum residual limits, and employing journal labors in the production and processing process. When you look into the WTO website, there are 22 subclasses to mention about non-tariff barriers. That is, they are qualitative tariff barriers, and also dumping, simply dumping into foreign markets. Since we are speaking about the sanitary and phytosanitary issues, you might have heard about our mango and mango pulp consignments rejected by European countries, even Japan. Okay, because of infestation with black specks or stone weevil and other associated impurities. Similarly, in the case of chilies rejected by your European markets because of it has contained azodite. The azodite imparts bright lustrous red color to chilies. Okay, so it will make it attractive, but the thing is, it is adulterated. Similarly, even in our local markets also, you can see the green peas. They are not green peas. They are imported with the dried peas, imported green colored with your malachite green. Okay, so these are all the non-permissible adulterants. So you should be very careful in doing our exports. Okay, it should not be adulterated. It should have, permissible residual limits, and also you should not employ any juvenile labor. Your child labor in your production or harvesting or processing pattern. Proper certification should be there. So our concern is not trade barriers. It is basically NTB or NTM. They call it as non-trade or non-tariff measures or non-tariff barriers. So, what are the mechanism to address this NTB to access global markets, and how to align our farm exports with the GVC, global value chain? So, there is to strive to double India's share in world agri exports by integrating our farm sector with GVC. And every one of you, you are very familiar with GVC, global value chain. That is production happening somewhere, assembling happening somewhere, and pre-processing and finishing and dumping in any other markets. It is happening mostly for electronic goods, automobiles, even your iPhone. Okay, the typical case is iPhone. Each and every part is manufactured in many parts of the country. Some parts in Indonesia, something in Taiwan, something in China, and assembled at say Indonesia and marketed at in any region, China or India or any world countries. So likewise, is there any possibility to align our production system with the global value chain? Because in the case of South America, most of the countries, they are well aligned with the GVC, especially in exporting farm commodities, whether it's a pineapple or it's orange or banana or anything. They have integrated or they have aligned well with the GVC. But our existing production pattern or processing pattern, how well it will be conducive for aligning ourselves with the GVC. And not the last, but this is the most important, enable farmers to get benefit of export opportunities in overseas markets. How the benefits harnessed? We have seen the increase in farm gate price or the domestic price or even in the world price. How it could be aligned and it can be percolated to the grassroots level. What happened? All indicators say exports are surging, value added surging, and you got the price indexes on increasing trend. But what about the plight of farmers? Why they are still remain at the bottom of the pyramid and still they are looking for something else? All the three dimensions, agriculture markets and trade, they are evolving. They are undergoing seesaw change and a lot of revolutions happening. But the circle engulfed by these three, corner of or the axis of triangle, they have potential growth. But why still we are very much concerned about the farm profitability? So with that understanding, the AEP or the agri export policy is implemented, and each state has its own state agri export policy with proper strategic and operational measures to implement. And what are the necessary policy measures or infra and logistics to be evolved, and involvement of governments and other progressive farmers or entrepreneurs to be aligned with the creation of the value chain, and creation of a lot of commodity classes, processing and value addition. and creating our own brand, whether it's a brand India or brand Tamil Nadu or make in India or made in India, whatever it may be, and getting a lot of GI status for our commodities. And already we have seen in the strength attracting private investments in production processing. Already we have seen lot of potentials for attracting investments, and MNCs are already there in say production of seeds, chemicals and fertilizers, okay, even for technology. And the traceability issue is a major concern for our farm exports. So we should have a strong quality regimen and grading laboratory for our farm exports. And R&D, it is not alone for our production and processing, and also for packaging and everything connected with it. Okay, so these are all the strategic and operational which are well, I mean, aware of for all our, participants. They know pretty much about this AEP and objectives. So having seen the setting the context, what is the rationale for the present study and the past trends in agriculture trade of our country, and the trade and prices nexus under different period and different regimes, and the rules and the objectives and the mandate for our agri-export policy. What is the or what are the missing links? It is based on the meta-analysis I have conducted by going through various literature. It is not my own observations. Based on the meta-analysis conducted for the performance of agriculture trade and the performance of our Indian agriculture or the Indian farmers. So first one is the market intelligence. Okay, they should be empowered with proper market intelligence. As of now, we are just giving price intelligence, but it is a broader term. You should have price, place, and product intelligence. These three intelligence together collectively called market intelligence. Price intelligence talks about where you get better prices. Place intelligence, what are the potential markets, and your product intelligence, what is the consumer preference for your product in the particular market. Okay, so it need to be evolved along with your market and non-market factors. Even in the previous batch, one of the officers suggested about integrating even non-price factors, the climatic factors, the climatic variability in evolving price intelligence. It's a welcome measure. So we need to empower our producers in the value chain. When you see from producer to consumer, the tail end from the middleman to the consumer, they got good information about the prices. So, but whereas in the back end, the asymmetry for price information prevails. They don't know about the real trend or anything happening in the markets. Okay, and so we need to empower them to have better bargaining power. So the market intelligence is suggested as a prime link to give them access to markets, access to information, so that they can increase their profitability, not directly into the export markets. As of now, at least you can get better profitability in the domestic markets. Then you think of going for, in the second stage, you can go for pooling your resources. Then you go for farm exports, or exporting to foreign markets. And the second concern is the convergence. So on consumer part or on the terminal end, you can see the price convergence happening globally as well as nationally. When you check into the FAO global price indices and our WPA, you can see the convergence. But when you think of the farm gate price of the major developed economies and the countries like the SAARC or Asian countries, lot of variability. The convergence is not happening for emerging economies and also for the developing economies, unlike the developed economies. So it should be taken care of, and what sort of processing or value addition that can be imparted to mitigate this convergence. Okay, convergence to happen, to narrow down the variability. And what about the price transmission? We are talking about the markets are integrated and the prices are transmitted. Even you can see if the commodities are traded in a futures platform, okay, the futures market, whether the futures market or the spot market, they are aligned, whether the prices are transmitted to address the problem of price discovery and the price risk management. Similarly, is there any scope for the prices transmitted from global markets to domestic markets, from domestic markets to your regional or rural markets, whether they are transmitted or not, that is a question mark. But it's happening for select commodities, maybe for commercial crops, but not for all the crops or durable crops or the field crops or grain crops. It's not happening. And institutional reforms, we talked about a lot of act, the contract farming and your ENA movement, one nation, one market, and everything is okay. But when you have multiple regulators, and similarly for warehousing, some more regulatory, and for regulating futures market, you got SEBI. For spot market, some other agency. When you have multiple regulators, it should be streamlined. And also recently we had on conference about interstate and intrastate movement of farm commodities under ENA. It's a welcome measure. So these kind of movements that will facilitate to tide over these kind of pandemics, as well as stabilize the price all over, because the production clusters, they are in some parts of the country, consumption clusters all over the country. How to move the produce or the finished commodity to consumption markets, and also in the next stage to the terminal markets. And in the case of say monsoon or any pandemic, if there is any curb in movement of this farm commodities, how it will affect the prices. So this all should be properly addressed with the proper market regulations. And the emergence of, I told NTB, trade barriers, you got both quantitative as well as qualitative. Quantitative trade barriers, it's a measurable one, like your ad valorem tariff or a specific tariff. And you got the bond duties gradually decreasing year by year for farm commodities for all the major countries. But when you think of non-tariff barriers, like your SPS measures and other adulteration, traceability, even a GM issue, you cannot, think of exporting any GM crop to European market. So you should know about the market. That's why it is covered under market intelligence to know about the price, place, product. The non-tariff barriers. So we need to educate our stakeholders, right from producer to processor and everybody, about what are the major non-tariff barriers existing for our conventional farm exports as well as non-conventional farm exports, because in future we are also trying to boost our non-conventional farm exports. So these are all the outcome of some of the meta-analysis done on the missing links between the farm prices and the world prices, and how to integrate the farmer with the global markets. So that is we address in this slide. And what should we do, or what else could be done in future to sustain the efforts we have made to strengthen our cause. The structural changes in the markets. So all along we have been revamping our marketing system, the policies and everything. But what is the potential gain happening in the markets, and how to replicate that model, or how to expand it to some other place? Okay, so we need periodical changes, and also we cannot treat all the commodities that are suitable for all the markets. Some of the commodities, they are best suited for spot markets, some of them for futures markets. You cannot have a separate common policy for the same commodity for single market. So we need to have proper structure, conduct and performance for different markets. with respect to the commodities concerned. And what sort of technological changes we can think of? Already we talked about aligning with global value chain. So what sort of production technology or what sort of processing technology that will be favorable or conducive to align with the global markets, and how to do the aggregation, whether we can think of making use of FPOs. So rather than doing the production activity, how best we can bring them in processing and marketing aspects, dimensions, so that um, we can pool the resources and it can be traded in futures market or even in global market, because you need volume and also with the homogeneous condition, okay, the similar condition. We cannot pool the produce from different packets, okay. Each packet or each parcel will have different varieties, okay. When you have a homogeneous commodity, then it will be easy for you to grade and process, okay. And trade cost, all along you have witnessed emerging energy prices in agriculture, especially the energy prices, along with the labor input. When you think of the price increase, that is enormous. The labor cost as well as your energy prices, energy cost. When you add both these two, your cost of production will increase. And you think of global markets, the trade cost will be very high. So how to reduce the trade cost? You cannot cut short your energy prices. What are the alternatives to look for these energy sources? How to replace labor? You cannot replace all of a sudden in all the production or processing environment. In some of the cases, you can think of mechanization. In some of the cases, it requires the skilled labor. So we should look for the commodity specific policy, and also to address this cost reduction, and how to go about minimizing our tariff lines, and also the reducing the NTB issues, how to negotiate the non-trade barrier measures, okay, to boost or give a flip to our farm exports. And policy reforms, so all along we have been, whether it's a input policy or a price policy or a market reforms, everything, but still we are, trying our hand. But the thing is, just let us leave something for some time, okay. Let the best happens, okay. So don't, shuffle the policy reforms so often. So it will create confusion. Instead of giving potential benefits to the domain, it will give a lot of confusion in the minds of the stakeholders. And you look for the future drivers, okay, the processing sector, the farm machinery and logistics, and these are some of the sunrise sectors that will give better value addition, the better GVA, gross value added to each sector, commodity sector, and aligning ourselves with the global value chain, that will give better prospects. And also see, you can see the endorsements by the entrepreneurs from different segments, from various countries, from farm machinery, from livestock, or even from other investment sector. India is thought of a potential input as well as output market because of this huge population. So my simple advice is, before going for global markets, let us saturate our domestic market with respect to the commodities in which we have sufficient marketable surplus, okay. So you think about fulfilling our domestic consumer preference or domestic consumers and the value addition. Here alone you can see a vast potential for our farm commodities. Then at the next stage you will think about moving towards whoever they have potential, straightway you can align with the global markets. No other criticism. You are given warm welcome. You can in the process you can also take others, okay, in the commodity chain, on the value chain. you bring others, you pool the resources, and you get better remuneration, and you share among yourselves. So these are all the endorsements by different companies and people.